This is episode 1 with Caitlin McCall.
Welcome to the Eco-Conscious Diver Show. I'm your host, Caitlin, PADI scuba instructor, scientific diver, and science communications specialist. I'm here to remind you that being eco-conscious is cool. Learning about the environment can be fun, and climate change isn't a dirty word. Each week, I'll be getting up close and personal with thought leaders from around the globe as your weekly dose of motivation so that you can create epic change in your own life and become the best version of yourself possible. Are you ready to dive? What's up, everybody? If you're listening to this right now, this is an opportunity to join in with the Eco-Conscious Diver community and use our passion to create a more sustainable blue planet. Eco-Conscious Diver is a lifestyle brand and podcast, illuminating our paths to eco-conscious diving, overall sustainability, and a healthy planet for future generations. Eco-Conscious Diver was born out of my immense love for our ocean planet and my need to create a space for knowledge and change to help save it. With gratitude, my name is Caitlin McCall and I will be your guide. As divers and ocean lovers, shouldn't we be the best advocates for a healthy ocean and planet? In the midst of climate uncertainty, it's time to redefine what it means to enjoy nature, recalibrate our measurements of progress, and dream up the world that we want for our lifetimes and the generations after us. I hope you'll join me. As you're listening to this, you may be wondering, what is an eco-conscious diver? Well, it's a noun. It's one who scuba dives or free dives with a consciousness for the environment. In pursuit of the vision of a healthy ocean planet, the eco-conscious diver is inquisitive in exploring the root causes of our ecological crisis, drawing upon scientific knowledge. The eco-conscious diver is motivated by love for the ocean and feels called to help realize this vision of our world, one where people care for the environment and learn as much as we can about other species in order to help protect them. On today's episode, I would like to address 5 key questions about ocean conservation that I've gotten over the past year to give an overview as to what we're really dealing with here. The first question is, the ocean seems boundless, but we're now realizing that it's not. So, what is the state of the oceans today? Well, research has definitely painted a picture of escalating degradation. Overfishing has decimated many fisheries, and scientists now believe that more than 90% of the world's big fish are gone from our planet altogether. We know from the news that pollution is now rampant, especially involving plastics, which are literally everywhere, and are entering the food chain by consumption from sea life, even posing a threat to humans through our consumption in turn. We also know that habitats, which are critically important to fish, marine mammals, and seabirds, such as breeding and nursery grounds, are being degraded at an alarming rate. If all of this weren't enough, the most serious impact is likely rising temperatures in our world's oceans and ocean acidification, which we now know are both results of climate change. So the second question is, why are there special challenges to be safe in preserving life in the world's oceans? Well, land lies within boundaries of countries, which can be easily regulated and protected. However, 45% of the Earth's surface is covered by the sea. These areas are beyond jurisdiction of countries and are therefore exploited by everyone and managed by no one. This huge task of bringing sustainable management to the ocean is an unfathomable challenge. To make things worse, while many island nations do have jurisdiction over their shoreline, which is typically about 200 nautical miles, many don't have the manpower to enforce fishing and other laws in their own waters. Because of this, fish are stolen from these countries, which is a global loss of up to about $23.5 billion in fish, jobs, and revenue each year. The third question is, We know that the importance of preserving land through national parks and designations has been recognized for more than a century. So why did it take so long for conservationists to realize that we needed to do the same for our oceans? Well, our oceans cover roughly 72% of the world's surface, but the overwhelming majority of the ocean environment lies beneath the surface. This is an area that until about 75 years ago was completely invisible to people, except along the shoreline. It has been difficult for humans to develop an emotional connection to the ocean in the same way that we have to land until recent years. This is a classic case of out of sight, out of mind. Luckily, the invention of scuba diving, our love, has put our ocean's health in the forefront. This is actually one of my favorite facts about scuba diving. And there were actually 4 tech innovations that remove these constraints that you may find interesting. The aqua lung, which was developed by a legend we all know by name, Jacques Cousteau. The underwater camera, the evolution of advanced submersible technology for deep sea exploration, and television, which actually brought Cousteau's expeditions into everyone's living rooms, showing them images of the ocean that people had, quite frankly, never seen before, which is pretty cool. The 4th question is, given their obvious importance, why aren't there more marine reserves now? This is likely because they're not easy to create and unfortunately tend to be opposed by companies and politicians with economic interest in the areas where the parks are proposed. No surprise here. However, most of our nation's parks or national parks throughout the world have become a very special part of their community and have served as a reminder that we stand to lose if we don't take steps to preserve life in our oceans. So hopefully this will change. The 5th question is, so what is the best way to restore and maintain ocean health then? In 2 words, stop overfishing. We must regulate fishing practices. Unsafe practices create destruction of essential habitats needed to sustain life and can be easily fixed by banning certain gear and practices. We must also stop the decline of wetlands and other critical areas, and we need our mangroves. I've heard several biologists state that if you can't get someone to take action for caring about the environment, give them a reason why humans should be concerned about themselves. Which is kind of sad that we have to twist biology that way, isn't it? But that being said, our mangroves actually protect us from hurricanes. And ocean plastic will end up in our stomachs if it's in fish. So that being said, I believe the best way to protect our oceans is to create great, well-regulated marine parks. These need to be no-take, which means no fishing, areas. So far, 9 of these no-take marine reserves are in some of the most iconic places in the world, and that's because they're doing so well. Have a look at Easter Island or Marianas Trench or even the northwestern Hawaiian Islands. These 9 reserves protect a total of 2.5 million square miles of ocean, which still only represents 2% of the world's waters. And the best science now tells us that we should be preserving 30% of the ocean. This tells me that we have a lot of work to do as eco-conscious divers. So this concludes my 5 key points about ocean conservation and my first podcast episode, which is, kind of a sound check. So I thank you so much for tuning in. I encourage you to head over to our social channels and come by and say hello. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Eco-Conscious Diver, and you can find our host on Instagram and Facebook at C. Caitlin McCall. And finally, if you're an eco-conscious diver or know someone who would make a great guest on this show, I encourage you to shoot a quick email over to Caitlin at ecoconsciousdiver.com for a consideration. That's Caitlin at eco-consciousdiver.com. ecoconsciousdiver.com. I want to thank you so much for tuning in to my first episode. I can't wait to hang out with you guys again and see what positivity we can bring into the world and to our oceans. So that's it. See ya.